All right, welcome in everyone to another deep dive here in the Art Unveiled series where we, really get to unpack all those layers of imagination and emotion and intention behind all these really cool visuals from Northwind Illustrations.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've been with us for a while in this series, you know what we're all about, but if this is your first time, get ready because we're going to find out what makes these deceptively simple artworks tick.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So today we're diving into Through the Wild, which is, well, it's an evocative piece for sure. And we'll be pulling our info from the Through the Wild episode of the Artist Journal podcast.
Great podcast.
Oh, yeah, huge fan. And they're calling it Art Unveiled, too. So
Nice. Great minds think alike, as they say.
That's right. That's right. And our big goal here today is to really understand what makes this artwork so appealing and the story it tells,
I think that's what draws people in, right? That
Yeah.
sense of mystery and wanting to understand the story behind the image.
Yeah, there's a definite pull, that's for sure. So the Artist Journal podcast talked about the inspiration behind Through the Wild. Apparently, it all started with a rainy hike, and we're talking about those super lush trails around Vancouver.
Oh, I can picture it now. The vibrant greens, the mist hanging in the air.
It's almost like you can smell the damp earth and the evergreens just thinking about it.
Absolutely. The Pacific Northwest has such a unique atmosphere, especially in the rain.
And the fact that such an, everyday thing like a rainy walk can turn into something so visually powerful.
It's really quite something.
Yeah, it is. Like inspiration can be found anywhere, even on a gloomy day.
I think that's a really important takeaway. We often search for these grand, extraordinary experiences for inspiration, but sometimes it's the simple, everyday moments that hold the most potential.
So true. And it's interesting that the artist chose ink on paper for this, right? What do you think about that choice, given the subject?
Well, ink, it has that wonderful fluidity to it, a real sense of immediacy. It's like capturing a feeling, a fleeting moment, which is perfect for a rainy day, don't you think? Because those moments, they come and go so quickly.
They really do. And you can feel that immediacy when you look at the main figure in Through the Wild, right? Like it's this lone person, super simplified, almost like a black and white silhouette against everything else.
Almost like a cutout.
Yeah, exactly. They're walking on this path. And the Artist Journal podcast described it as winding, kind of meandering through the scene. What do you make of that stark simplicity, especially against all that detail surrounding the figure?
Well, I think it really draws your eye, right? That stark contrast makes the figure a focal point, even though they're so simply drawn.
It does. And even though it's just one person, it doesn't feel lonely, does it?
No, not at all. I think the simplicity actually emphasizes the individual's journey through this environment. It's like we're invited to project our own experiences onto this anonymous traveler.
That's a great point. And then boom, you've got this giant rainbow-colored umbrella shielding the figure.
I love that element. It's such a bold splash of color and so unexpected.
Oh, it's totally unexpected. And those colors. The Artist Journal podcast really made a point of describing them. Orange, blue, pink, yellow, violet. It's like the sudden burst of sunshine or, well, rainbow shine.
Rainbow shine, I like that.
Yeah. And against that monochrome figure and all the green, it's a huge statement. The podcast even called it a symbol of optimism, like cutting through the grayness. It's more than just an umbrella keeping the rain off, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a visual metaphor. Rainbows, they have such strong connotations of hope and renewal, right? Putting one right there, front and center, against this backdrop that implies rain, well, it just reinforces that idea of resilience, of finding light and color, even when things are tough.
And, the world around the figure, it isn't just a plain green background either. The Artist Journal podcast talked about these jagged mountains way off in the distance, which gives you a sense of how big this wilderness really is. It's like a hint of the wildness from the title.
Through the Wild, it really fits.
And then up close, you've got these rich greens, but they're layered with these kind of, irregular strokes, almost like sketches.
Right, it feels very organic.
Yeah, organic, that's the word. Like the artist was just letting the ink flow, capturing the energy of the moment. How do you think those loose strokes contribute to the overall feeling?
Well, it keeps things from feeling too static, too perfect. Instead, it feels alive, like you're really seeing the movement of the forest. It's not a photo, it's an impression.
And then there are these cute little surprises scattered all over the forest floor.
The flowers.
Yes, little clusters of blue, purple, and orange flowers. They add this whole other layer of color, and it's kind of joyful, like a counterpoint to the rain.
It's like they're saying, hey, even in the rain, there's still beauty to be found.
I love that. And even the way the foliage is drawn, it's like everything is swaying a little bit, maybe from the rain or a gentle breeze. What's the effect of all these different textures and levels of detail?
Well, it creates a sense of depth.
Yeah.
You feel like you could step right into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the way those details are juxtaposed, the order of the figure on the path versus the wildness of the forest, the simplicity of the black and white against all the color, that's where the real magic happens.
Right, like there's a story unfolding between those elements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about how we as individuals navigate the world around us
Yeah.
with all its complexities.
And the Artist Journal podcast talked about the overall feeling as being somewhere between reality and a dream. It's definitely rooted in a real place, those Vancouver trails. But there's this fantastical element too, like something out of a storybook, especially with the colors and the atmosphere.
It's evocative, isn't it? It takes a familiar experience, a walk in the rain, and transforms it into something magical.
It really does. And the podcast hosts pointed out the line work, how expressive it is. Like those hand-drawn strokes, they give the piece this raw, almost vulnerable feeling.
It's honest.
Is
you
that?
know, like a direct line from the artist's experience to the paper.
Yeah, it's like a visual diary entry, and that honesty is really compelling. Then there's that huge contrast in color, like we talked about before. The greens and the cooler tones of the landscape really make that umbrella, and the flowers just pop, like they're glowing.
It's a clever way to draw your attention to those elements and emphasize their symbolic meaning.
And why do you think that specific contrast works so well here?
I think it reflects life, doesn't it? Even when things are a bit gray or subdued, there are always these moments of joy, these bursts of color that lift our spirits, and the artwork captures that beautifully. It's a balance of calm and excitement, tranquility and surprise.
And what about the emotional narrative? The Artist Journal podcast talked about how the path ahead for the figure, it's unknown, we don't know where they're going, and that open-endedness, it becomes part of the story, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It invites us to fill in the blanks, to imagine the possibilities. Is the figure facing a challenge, seeking solace, simply enjoying the journey? The ambiguity allows us to connect with the artwork on a personal level.
And that rainbow umbrella, it almost feels like a symbol for carrying hope into the unknown. Like no matter what's ahead, we have that inner resilience to guide us.
Exactly. It represents our inner strength, our ability to weather the storms and find joy even when things are uncertain.
So it's not just a picture of a person walking in the rain. It's about those bigger themes of resilience, hope, finding beauty in unexpected places.
And it's about those quiet moments of introspection, of being alone with our thoughts, and how we bring our own light into the world.
Absolutely. Now, the Artist Journal podcast had some interesting ideas about how Through the Wild could work in a home, and they started with maximalist interiors. For people who love that layered, eclectic look, how do you think this piece would fit in?
Oh, it would be perfect. You know, in a maximalist space, there's already a lot going on visually, but Through the Wild would add another layer of intrigue without being overwhelming.
Right, because it has its own richness of detail, but it's contained within that scene.
Exactly. And the figure with the umbrella, it becomes a focal point, a place for the eye to rest amidst all the visual stimulation. It would contribute to that eclectic charm.
So it's like a point of focus within a space that's already full of interesting things. That's really cool. And they also suggested it would be a great conversation starter, you know, if you hung it in an entryway or a living room. What do you think would draw people in and get them talking?
Well, all those contrasts we've talked about, the simplicity against the detail, the muted colors and the vibrant pops, they create this visual puzzle that people want to decipher.
Like a little mystery to unravel.
Right. It's not a piece that you just glance at and move on.
Yeah.
It pulls you in and it makes you think. And that naturally leads to questions and conversations.
And finally, the podcast talked about the appeal for people who love nature and that feeling of peace you get from being outdoors. Even though it's not a traditional landscape, it definitely evokes that connection to the natural world.
Oh, absolutely. It captures the essence of being in nature, surrounded by lush foliage, maybe hearing the soft patter of rain. It's calming, but also a little bit magical, like a dreamscape.
So whether you're into eclectic design, love a good conversation starter, or just want to bring a bit of nature indoors, Through the Wild seems to offer something for everyone.
It really does. And at its heart, it's about more than just the visual. It's about feeling, about connecting with those universal themes of resilience and hope.
So to wrap up our deep dive, it's clear that Through the Wild isn't just a pretty picture, it's an experience. And the Artist Journal podcast really captured that sense of the world slowing down, the colors becoming more vibrant against a quiet backdrop.
It's a reminder to appreciate those small moments of beauty, even when life feels a bit chaotic.
Yeah, and to find our own inner strength, our own umbrella moments as we move through the world.
And on that note, we leave you with this final thought. As you go about your day, think about those times when you've found your own resilience, when you've discovered hope in unexpected places. How do those moments connect with the themes we've explored in Through the Wild? Because art has a powerful way of reflecting our own experiences back to us, and this piece is no exception.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the wild.
It was my pleasure. Until next time.